Hi friends, welcome back to 5 Minute Modern. My name is Cindy, and today we're taking a look at the supernatural abstract paintings of Agnes Pelton. Although not widely known, Pelton was an important abstract painter in her day, creating spiritually charged works that inspired her contemporaries. Her life began with a difficult upbringing. Just before she was born, her grandparents' marriage was ended by a highly publicized affair that destroyed her family's reputation. And in 1891, when Pelton was only 10 years old, her own father died of a morphine overdose after a lifelong struggle with mental illness. Pelton sought escape from these pressures and from her own melancholic personality in music and art. After studying under famed teacher Arthur Wesley Dow at the Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, Pelton began producing early works influenced by the Symbolist movement, a literary and artistic movement which rejected realism in favor of using metaphors to express emotions or ideas. Leading Symbolist painter Walt Kuhn even selected 2 of Pelton's paintings for the highly influential 1913 Armory Show in New York. However, Pelton's involvement with the Symbolist movement was short-lived. In 1925, Pelton began experimenting with abstraction after being inspired by the work of Vasily Kandinsky. Kandinsky had turned to abstraction to express pure emotion, seeking to emulate the effect of music in a visual way. In 1911, Kandinsky published his influential treatise concerning the spiritual in art, which argued for expressing spiritual and emotional truths in art rather than strict realism. These ideas greatly appealed to Pelton, who was herself a longtime music lover and spiritual seeker. She read widely across esoteric and spiritual traditions, drawing inspiration from works by thinkers ranging from Helena Blavatsky to Krishnamurti to Rilke, and even science fiction author Ray Bradbury in her later years. Pelton's appreciation for Bradbury strikes me as especially fitting given the sci-fi-esque quality of many of her best-known paintings. She also had an interest in Agni Yoga, often painting flame-like forms in possible reference to Agni Yoga's emphasis on the symbolic importance of fire. Pelton's interest in abstraction and esoteric spiritual truths happened to come at a time when the American art world was headed in exactly the opposite direction. In the wake of the 1929 stock market crash, the Dust Bowl, and the ensuing Depression, artists in the US focused on creating social realist works that addressed the poverty ravaging many in the nation. However, there was one group of artists who still felt that abstraction, not realism, was the path to making art that would truly inspire positive change. Much like Pelton, New Mexico-based painters Raymond Johnson and Emil Bistrom were heavily influenced by esoteric philosophies and by Kandinsky's ideas about pursuing spiritual truths in art. Although Pelton lived in California, she had visited Taos, New Mexico in 1919 and had been greatly inspired by the state's unique desert landscape, just as Johnson and Bistrom were. Upon learning of Pelton's paintings, Johnson enthusiastically staged them in an exhibition he organized at the New Mexico Museum of Art, writing that although Pelton's works were abstract, they were clearly rendered, filled with vitality and pure beauty. In 1938, Bistrom, Johnson, and several of their colleagues and students formed the Transcendental Painting Group and invited Pelton to be their honorary president. As one of the longest practicing artists and one linked to the antecedent Symbolist movement, Pelton was embraced as a sort of mentor and model for the group. The Transcendental Painting Group was short-lived, disbanding in 1942 as the US entered World War II. But many of the artists involved continued to explore the ideas and styles fostered by the group. For her part, Pelton painted some traditional desert landscapes to support herself, but continued to pursue abstraction as her true calling. In the early 1950s, she painted some of her most otherworldly works, paintings rich with symbolism and strikingly visionary forms. Pelton died in 1961, and her ashes were spread on Mount San Jacinto, which overlooked her longtime home in the California desert. The work of Pelton and her colleagues in the Transcendental Painting Group received little attention or acclaim during their lifetimes, and their unique contributions were lost to history for many years. However, a 2021 exhibition organized by the Crocker Art Museum in Sacramento renewed interest in Pelton and the rest of the Transcendental Painting Group artists. It was actually through this exhibition that I first encountered Pelton's work. And hopefully this renewed interest ensures that the legacy of these remarkable paintings continues. Thanks so much for watching this one. Please let me know in the comments down below what you think about this artist. I always enjoy reading what you all have to say about the artists that we cover. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you learned something new. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.